since 2005. You're listening to Gamertag Radio with your hosts, podcaster Hall of Famer Danny Peña, the always opinionated Paris Lily, and from outside of the norm, Peter Toledo. This is Gamertag Radio.
All right, welcome to another episode here of Gamertag Radio, and this is Danny Peña. Wow, sounds very like a Latin America radio host or something. All right, so we have here one of my good friends from a very long time, and she's also been in the industry for over a decade. We have the one and only Diana Lora. What's up, Diana?
Hola, hola, hola. Hello.
How you doing?
Hi. I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I hit you up because I've been seeing a lot of the tweets, not only from you, from just a lot of people that we follow. That I think it will be a great conversation on everything that's been happening this past year with not the all the great games that's been coming out this year, but more of the layoffs. You know what I'm saying? So, and look, we've been celebrating about all these great games that's coming out this year, but honestly, if it wasn't for the devs and the people that have been working really, really hard behind the scenes, we have never would have seen like the feedback and great reviews from all these great games. So, but I think it is important, and there's been a lot of changes in the industry this past year, and I just want to talk to you about it. So.
Yeah. We'll chop it up. I have opinions on it.
You have lots of opinions. I see.
I got opinions. I got a lot lot of opinions on it. I mean, but that it wouldn't be me if I didn't have opinions on it.
That's
right?
true.
But I think that it's we should be. And let me preface this because I think it's very important. Very, very important. Which I think people are losing the plot as we have these conversations about layoffs.
Sure,
is that we should be celebrating. We should be rejoicing that we are living in wonderful times, and living in wonderful times when it comes to gaming. Because it's necessary and we love it. And I mean, my backlog is full. There's a lot to play, and it seems like every week we or every couple of weeks we get a new game that's just like freaking amazing. So yes, fantastic. It's wonderful that we're games are, we're living in the golden age of games right now. And we should celebrate it for 100%.
Yeah.
But on the other end of that, we should also acknowledge that the games that we play and that the games that we love are being made under duress, and that under exploited labor, under, rampant job losses. I mean, I think that I was like, oh man, 6,000 people have been laid off. And a friend of mine was like, nah, I feel like we're at 7,000 after this Bungie layoff. And on top of that, for every big studio that lays off people, we're not hearing about the other smaller studios right under it, because there were a couple of other smaller studios that also had their layoffs yesterday in the midst of the Bungie stuff. So I feel like, yes, we could do both things at once. We can celebrate it. We can rejoice in the awesome, amazing games that we love and we are playing. But we also have to acknowledge, and we have to sit down and actually have the conversation about how these games are being made, and what it is doing to the folks who are actually making the game. So let's start it like that. That's the base. Sigue.
And I think it was recently we just heard about Telltale that also got had laid off, right? Layoffs, but also that happened a month before we heard the news, which is complicated because there's also people that can't say anything that they got laid off.
Yep.
Because they're under NDA. Yep. So that makes things very, very difficult. Another thing too, sometimes they can't even talk about any of the projects they worked on, so they can put down the resume,
Mm-hmm.
which it makes it even harder
Mm-hmm.
to apply, and people see like the resume, like it's complicated.
That's exactly
Yeah.
it. It's 100% complicated. I say the folks who, who have been laid off. It's not an NDA. It's effectively like a, it's a oh, I forgot the phrase. It's an NDA that with notorious sort of terms, and the way that that, like, if you say anything disparaging about the company that you've been laid off, this is just a standard thing in the industry. Say anything about you being laid off, or you like having a terrible time, or anything like that, then that you are held liable. And like, so that means that you have people who leave the company, who leave these companies in these like either massive layoffs or whatever, and they're like, yes, everything was beautiful, and it was rainbows and ponies, and we ate ice cream every day, and we just made wonderful video games. Meanwhile, when you're like having drinks with them outside of work, they're like, nah, man, that shit was a nightmare.
Yeah.
You're like, yo,
Yeah.
what a
Yeah.
So it's like, and so that's where the I think I'm seeing the change in people, and people actively having these like more and more of these conversations, which I think is valid, and we should be having these conversations where they're saying like, yes, I enjoyed my time, however, because this and this and this happened, and that's what's important. And I think that's where you get some some gamers and things like that, like saying, but things are great, everything is awesome, what do you mean, you should be thankful. And it's like, nah, man, you don't know half of what's happening.
Yeah. And how's it been with you, D? Because I know you also got laid off this year. I got laid off last year.
You got laid off last
year.
Yeah,
because this is the thing too. Like, even gaming media has been going through a lot too. A lot of changes this past year. I remember going to the Game Awards, and on that day, IGN had layoffs, and we found out while we were over there driving to the Game Awards. Like things like that, where we don't find out until maybe later, maybe because there's like a distraction, like there's an event or something, or let's release this news on a late Friday, so over the weekend people will forget about it and then move on, that type of thing. Like, there's a lot of distractions like that also happens too.
Or release it during a major game release. And then you have your NDAs, you can't talk about it, everybody's talking about the new hot game that just came out, and then and it and the news effectively gets buried under the hype.
And it was,
so that's
yeah, I know you've been attending and talking to a lot of people online about everything that's been going on. Like, what do you think?
And at meetups too.
Meetups.
I go to like
meetups, local meetups or online meetups.
Yeah, local meetups.
So, like, what
local meetups, online meetups
for gamers, for the people that don't know much but they would like to help. What do you think us gamers should do to help out and make the industry better? Do you think it's do you think being vocal about it, or what?
I think 100% being vocal about it. We need to, I think gamers and anybody who's not, thinking the folks who just work in the industry in general, like, we need to be more vocal, need to be more supportive. Good God, if I could just, if I hear another person say to me, it's not just happening in, the gaming industry, it's happening in all industries. If I hear another person say that to me, I will shoot them into the moon. I'm not the sun, because that, that's terrible, but I'll shoot you to the moon, but like, I just, it is so dismissive. It's so minimizing. Like, and like, I don't care if it happens. Like, like, not necessarily like I don't care, but it's just like, I'm not talking about other industries. I'm talking about the industry that I work in. It's the pancakes and waffles conversation. Like, I'm talking about pancakes right now because that's what feeds me. That's what feeds everybody around me. Like what's happening in Waffle Town, like, all good to them. We're still breakfast. We're having a good time. But like, I care about pancakes. I care about what's happening in the industry. Like, and I think that, I think folks, and I don't want to call out just gamers here because, but like, if you care about the games that are being made, if you care about, the industry and keeping it going so that y'all can keep playing these fantastic games, you need to understand where your games are coming from and how they're being made, because you can't just say like, on one day, I like the stuff that happened with Unity, united us as an industry. I've never seen everybody like collectively be angry and for about one particular thing. I mean, look, the collective anger and the collective audacity and outrage from that got the dude fired, man. Like the dude who made, who created, like, who was the dude who was in charge, was let go. Granted, yes, like, it's a golden parachute and he's a billionaire person, but that's what collective, not gonna say outrage, but what, like, when we all come together as an industry and say, nah, this is bullshit, that is the influence that we have. And so I don't want to hear another person come to me and say, well, it sucks, but that's the industry. No, bro, that's not how the industry should be. It shouldn't be that way. The only reason it's that way is because we've been shoveling it in our mouths and we've been accepting it. I completely understand cycles. I completely understand. Listen, I've been at this for 18 plus years, man. Like, I understand the cycle of the development process. As soon as a game is released, obviously the team, you don't need as many people as you need in order to keep the game, sustained. 100%. I get that. But like, that doesn't mean that you all of a sudden just leave them, which has happened to some of the friends, which has happened to some of the folks that, that I meet at these meetups, these local meetups, where they're literally let go and they have either 2 weeks or 4 weeks pay. And they've been at the company for 10 years, or they've been at the company for 2 years or 3 years or something, working on a game. Mm-hmm. Like, come on. You telling me that that 2 weeks, 4 weeks is perfectly okay, and then you cut off their insurance that day for some people? Mm-hmm. Nah, man, that's mad disrespectful. Like, especially in this climate. And so I feel like there's a certain level of disrespect that and dismissal that happens, when people are saying, hey, this is not normal. We should not be accepting this. With folks just saying, oh, that's just how it is. No, it's not. That's not how it can be. Right? And it shouldn't be that way. We shouldn't continue in that direction.
Yeah, I was just thinking too. Every time we see this news that goes out, right, layoffs and everything, it's people will say, "Oh, maybe the economy is bad, there's recession," but a lot of these companies are making record profits, and we still see.
Now you're going into the nitty gritty of it,
and now we're seeing this. So that's the part that maybe a lot of the gamers are, or just people, normal people, like, what? Wait a minute, I thought the gaming industry is in a good place when it comes with like money, but then we still see these layoffs. Why do you think this is happening from your point of view? Do you think?
So I just saw like a statistic. I wrote it down. Abe, espérate, hold on a second. Where did I write it down? Oh, here it is. It is $490.58 billion generated in 2023, and over 600 is expected to generate, and then almost 600 billion in 2025, meaning that there is that in order for and then there's also like a 3.1 billion players are expected to grow even further, which means that like by 2027 or something like that, the gaming industry, 39% of the human population will be playing video games. So let's not even talk about 2027. Let's go back to 2023 because that's where we are right now. We're talking about almost $500 billion worth of profit being made, hand over fist. And like the numbers are out there. You can look it up. Like that's the math. The math is there. And it's also public because these are publicly traded companies. So you can literally just go see how much like, Bobby Kotick makes, which is $55 billion or $1 million. He makes $155 million.
Not billion, million.
Million dollars. And then you have like others like who are as low as 10 million to as high as $375 million. And there's like a list that you can look it up and you could see the top earners of in the gaming industry. You see these dudes and like, listen, man, once again, I'm not here to take your bag away. Like I'm all about people. You make your money. That's perfectly fine. It's perfectly okay. Reasonable. But at the same time, you're trying to tell me that you're saying in the quarterly meetings, the town hall meetings that like, look at us, profits are up, y'all. Profits are fantastic. We're making a lot of money this month or this quarter. But we need to run lean and mean. And you're like, what does that mean? When you start hearing that shit, lean and mean, that means that, no matter how much they're trying to, they say there aren't going to be any layoffs, there's going to be layoffs. Because at the end of that quarter, or the end of that year, there's going to be like a shareholders vote where they're going to push the agenda for the year and the monies and the finances for the year. And they're going to say, hey, can we get a raise? Because that's how they pay themselves. The shareholders pay themselves that way. And so they always win the raise. They always get their raise. And so, as soon as they get their raise, who's going to have to pay for that? Where's that money coming from? It's not going to come from the profits. So it's going to come from all the people that they lay off. So they need to make that money back. And so that's exactly what's happening, in this industry where we have record profits, where we have, folks, in quarterly earnings and saying that like, everybody's making money and, the video game industry is super popular. And then the shareholders / these, the CEOs are asking for more money, raising their salaries. And where's that money going to come from? That's where it's going to come from, And listen, I also get it. Listen, I'm trying to be reasonable here. I'm not trying to just be like, we got to blame the corporations and we got to blame the CEOs. I'm trying to be reasonable here because I understand, there's a lot of factors that come along with it. Where there were a lot of folks that were hired during the pandemic. Now these folks are trying to push back return to office, which I think is ridiculous. Considering that the most popular games these last couple of years have come out were done completely remotely, with happy devs. So you can't force people to return to office, and then say if you don't return to office, you're all going to get laid off. Like it's a lot of things. It's a lot of things. But at the end of the day, you can't, like these dudes are on one hand saying we're making a lot of money, but then on the other hand saying, oh, we need to save that money. The thing that just happened with Bungie, one of the biggest, literally the headline, because we were talking about this. What was the headline? That it was like. Oh, I tell you, I have it right here. Actually, I was gonna read it. Yeah.
Oh,
you do?
So this is from.
Go for it.
I believe this is from the Washington Post. It says Bungie leadership assures employees Sony deal would not result in layoffs.
100%.
And it happened a year,
And you know
a year
why?
and a half later. It happened.
How much did Bungie get acquired by? 70 billion?
I can't remember. Let me look it up.
It was something ridiculous like that. It was like $70 billion. But there was money that was that was marked to keep
3.6 billion.
3.6 billion. Excuse me. Apologies. I take it back. It was acquired for 3.6 billion. But there was money that was earmarked specifically to prevent layoffs. And they touted that like, look at that. We got acquired. We got all this money to protect people because we care about people. Like the dude was literally in people's DMs saying that there aren't going to be any layoffs. So it's like the hypocrisy is like right there. We're seeing it. I'm happy that people are waking up to that. I keep saying this, the math is not mathin'. You can't release the press release that says, the company is doing fantastic. And then 2 months later say that, you're laying people off. Mm-hmm. Either don't release the press release or don't lay people off. Like it doesn't make sense.
Now for you that, I know you're in the same boat. A lot of people, has it been easy searching for jobs? Has it been like difficult? Because I think this was an article that you were in. You're competing with your friends, with a lot of your friends.
Primo, I'm competing with my friends. Literally, we're talking to each other and we're going, oh man, did you see this role that just opened up? Yeah, I just applied to it. I'm like, oop, I just applied to it too.
Yeah.
like that's it is what it is, and I'm like, I'm not going to be like, nah, man, don't apply to that. Like,
no, of course, everybody's hungry.
No, of course not. We all hungry. We're all trying to survive, and we're all cheering each other on. And I think that's the beauty, as well as in the sadness, there is that joy where we are helping each other and we're lifting each other up. Just helping each other with our resumes, or with cover letters and things like that, or like literally, like people are sending me things, and I'm sending them things. So like the community / the dev community has been super, super supportive and been wonderful. But yeah, I'm competing against my friends, and and again, I'm a logical person. Mm-hmm. Companies also have their pick of the litter. They can say, man, Diana's pretty awesome, but we're looking for somebody who literally happened to me. I thought I got the job. I pretty much we were talking about like, oh, when you come in, like starting next month, it's going to be great. One of the first things we're going to be doing is this and this. And I'm like, bet, let's go. I'm ready for it. Literally having the conversation like I was going to be walking into the room. And then, and then what's happening, because as soon as like, you're like, oh, I'm so excited, let's start talking. It starts to get crickets. The crickets happen. And then you're like, that's what it is. Okay, fine, cool. And then you just move on. Psychologically, that fucks you up. Because now you're like, I don't trust anybody. Yeah. But like, and then you find out later after you get the feedback, it's just like, oh, we thought you were really great. But somebody came along who had more technical experience. And I'm like, technical experience? Y'all that wasn't even on the posting. Mm-hmm. Like, what are you even talking about right now? So, okay, cool. I understand. Respect. That you guys are doing. That reminds you guys are doing cool things.
Yeah. No, it reminds me. It reminds me so much of like, when I tried to apply for a studio 2 years back, it was kind of similar. Like, oh, same thing. I get a whole list of stuff like, hey, this was gonna happen, and then I'm about to get ready. Crickets for a while, and then eventually it'll hit you up. Like that part, I'd rather hear it from the beginning. Like, hey, we decided, instead of feeding you like all this stuff to get you hype, because that mentally that messes you up big time.
It really does. I don't think people we're not talking about the trauma that comes along with the constant, rejections and things like that. But like for me personally, like, and you know this about me, I started out in theater. I started out in the entertainment industry. So I was auditioning for movies and television and all this other stuff. And theater.
Mhm.
So I'm used to rejection. Like I'm used to it. Like, you know, thank you so much. Have a good day. Cool. You do your thing, you do the song and dance, then you're done for the day and you move on to the next one.
Mhm.
I'm coping with it in the way that I do it. I can deal with that. I can deal with the rejection. Some of my friends are not dealing with it very well. Like they're not, like I have friends who have been laid off, who've been off the market for the last year and a half.
Wow.
15 months, 15, 16 months. So they're struggling. They're legitimately struggling. And so that's where, you know, you try and help as much as you can and lift them up. But the rejection really starts to wear on you. And I admit, like, you know, there are some days where the rejection hurts, because you think that everything is cool and you think that, you know, you know exactly where you're going. But you know, you kind of pick yourself up and you move on. You know, and I don't think people are understanding too. If I could also mention, is that like a lot of so there's another statistic that I wrote down. It was just like 65% of women are more likely to be laid off than their male counterparts. And so of that 65%, there's another like even a smaller statistic on that where you're also seeing women of color also being affected by that. And so that when I like as I looked around and I start to have this conversations, I'm like, holy shit, that's right. Like a lot of the folks that I've been talking to lately have been women, like women who are either were, you know, about like pregnant and laid off,
Messed up.
or like
Sorry, messed up.
who were, you know, in during their pregnancy time off, you know, maternity leave, and they find out they're laid off, or they come back and they're like, surprise, you're laid off, or you know, or it's a number of things. So it's like, you know, there's the implications of losing these women when we're already in such dire straits when it comes to women in the gaming industry is going to be, you know, is super impactful. The loss of mentors that we're losing for future women joining these teams, the loss of the diverse interviews. Bro, I've been in some interviews. I've been in, and I'm, you know, I'm like senior lead, a little high. I'm not seeing women there. It's all men.
Mm-hmm.
It's all men. So you have these loss of diverse interviewers, you know, loss of touch points for literally half of your audience because you don't understand like the women, you know, the women or just people of color or just marginalized folks. Mm-hmm. So it's just like there's a lot of like implications. We're going to be having a major brain drain if 7,000 people, if we're losing out on those, like we can't, like that's a lot. And then not to mention the folks who are just not planning on coming back. So not to be sad, not to be dire, but like these are the sort of things that like we're thinking about and that we need to have conversations about, because we're not thinking about these sort of things, which for like, okay, that's on the business side, but like now let's look at the gamers. You're missing out on all these things. That means your games in the next year and a half, like they may suffer.
Yeah.
Like they're going to be suffering. They may not be as good as we're saying. So like good, I use that very loosely. I put up quotation marks. Yeah. So, you know, these are the things that we have to think about, you know, as we have these conversations. So dismissing it, you're not thinking about like the effects that's going to happen in the next year, 2 years.
Let me answer this, and I'm going to mention something positive. We could talk about something positive.
Please.
The other day, it was a big news that came out where we found out that Sarah Bond was promoted to president of Xbox. You know, for you from the
Yes.
outside, seeing that for the first time.
Mhm.
And Sarah, I don't know if you met Sarah or not in person, but she's awesome. She's really, really cool. Great
No, I
person.
haven't. I feel like I was actually with you when I had the opportunity to meet her, and I literally checked
Really?
out.
Oh, no, next time I got your introduction.
Do you remember that? Y'all bullied me. Y'all bullied me. Like, you were like, "Oh, I can't believe you did it." And I was like, "Nah, man, I
cool.
legitimately,
She's super cool.
I know she is, and that's what makes it harder."
So seeing that news, that news of Sarah promoted to president of Xbox, I mean, that's a big deal. That's a really, really big deal, man. And I think this is the beginning of major changes that we might see in the future with Xbox too. And I love to see that with other companies too.
Yes. Yes. It's kind of this is like the conversation I was having was like, oh, it's like seeing someone get president of the United States. That means that like I could be president. And I'm like, yeah, you're kind of right on that. So I think it's wonderful. I think it's about time, and it's so fantastic. And then like you said, like you know her and you've talked to her, and she's cool, and that just and she like, and it seems like from our conversations that she legitimately cares, and that's wonderful. And I think that that's like a perfect example that we need as an industry to see, and we need more of that. And I'm so happy for her. I'm so proud, and I literally don't know her, but like, it's just like, it's still like, you can't help that parasocial, like, you're like, oh, she made it. Go girl.
No,
you know what I mean?
No, the only reason I brought that up is because you were saying there's not a lot of women, especially women of color, in that position, in the game industry. There's not that many. And I think this is the beginning of hopefully more positive changes we might see in the future. I would love to see that more.
It's a watershed moment. It's a watershed moment. It's so positive, and it's what we need. And I'm sorry, like, as much as possible, I'm really trying not to be dour, and I'm not trying to be sad and be depressing or anything like that. I'm legitimately, there's hope for this industry. There's hope for the future. I'm really happy to see people are now talking about unionizing and wanting wanting that collective action and that collective change that Europe has, but for whatever reason, the United States, we can't do that. Europe has unions. They have protections where they get things like garden leave, where they effectively get 3 months, like folks are laid off and they effectively get 3 months to search for a job and fully supported everything as if they're still at the company. So it's like those sort of things, and or 6 months depending on where they're from. So that sort of stuff is standard over there, but here it's not. And so I'm happy to see that folks are having these conversations about unionizing, and the companies that are the unions that are actually bringing that to the table. And then also just Sarah, and then there's a lot of positive things. Again, we can do both things. We can celebrate the beauty and the awesomeness that is this industry. We also have to, in order for us to celebrate that, we need to know where the pain and the struggles that got us to that joy. It makes us a better industry.
And one of my last questions is, I know I read your post online. I think you were replying to Jeff Keighley about the Game Awards.
Yeah.
I mean, how important it is for Jeff to say something on stage about what the devs are facing now, or has been going through this year, the past few months.
It's again, it goes back to what I said. It's like, we can celebrate, but we also need to there needs to be a fundamental understanding and embracing of the bad. Like, we need to say, this shit is not okay, regardless of the positives. And yes, it's let's celebrate games, let's celebrate awarding, let's raise those people who deserve it. But we also need to understand where it came from. Having the Game Awards acknowledge that, and not just can it and then try to sweep it under the rug. having those folks, having visible people, I think is really where I'm getting at. Super, super visible people with a big reach, with power, with accountability, with influence, acknowledge it and say things out loud. We need that. At this point, we need that. We need that support because, I just feel terrible. Like, full transparency, the industry, this industry voted me in as, the inaugural 2020 future class. So if we're going to be talking about the future, the Game Awards future class. So if we're going to talk about the future, and we're going to talk about the tenets of what it means to be future class, and it's people who are, who are looking towards the future and shining a light to this industry and bringing that positive force to the industry, then, I think future class should be the ones to lead that charge. If we're about to vote in a new batch of future class folks, we all need to be taking that torch and really shining the light on the industry, because a couple of us in future class have been laid off. We are a part of that community that's been laid off. And then, like, not even for the title of future class, we also need to have the conversation for the future of devs and the future of the people in this industry who are just graduating from colleges, just getting out of school or wanting to make the transition into gaming. We need to think about them, and we need to create a healthy environment for them to thrive and for them to do the things that they love. Just because we all love gaming and we're all artists and we all want to suffer for our craft doesn't mean that we should suffer for our craft anymore. Like, we're not Van Gogh. We don't need to cut our ears off in order to make some form of a statement. We should be able to live happy, healthy, balanced lives and still make games. And I think that's where it comes down to. And I think having somebody like Akili, having a visible person, have the Game Awards acknowledge that, man, that would be awesome. And do it right too. Not just a 2-second statement where it's then we move on and celebrate and then it'll be okay. Like, and also I also understand we don't want it to be sad. So it's like, acknowledge it. You have the team, you have the professional, PR folks who can write you a beautiful statement. Say that, acknowledge it. With that acknowledgement, let's have a good time. Boom. Oh my gosh. And then also unionize the industry. Hey.
Yeah. I think
but that's a
I think that would be great.
That's a pipe dream.
I don't plan to attend the awards this year because baby, we're gonna have our baby this year, but
whatever.
But we're gonna be watching it, and I hope we get to see something there on stage, or hey, even if we could bring also people that could be on stage to be there, even behind Jeff talking about like what's happening in the industry. I think that would be really, really cool to see. I would love to see that.
Yes.
Like how remember that moment when we got to see all three presidents from PlayStation, Nintendo, and Xbox all together, and everybody's like, "Wow, that was like a big moment." Yeah. I would love to see a moment like that, but with this now too. Yes. I think that would be amazing.
Yes, it's the acknowledgement. There's trauma being had. There's a collective trauma in this industry, not just by people who work here, but also by the folks who want to work here, work in the industry. So I think it's something that needs to happen, and it needs to be done right.
Yeah, definitely.
I agree.
So D, anything else? You want people to follow you or what? Social media? Because you've been very vocal. You've been also talking about Alan Wake 2, and all this other stuff.
Oh my gosh, Alan Wake 2 is scaring the poop out of me. Yeah. I think I was telling you that I just made it to the Carnival amusement park. And the I don't, you know what? Actually, I'll tell you offline so I don't spoil anything. Sure. But this is really great. That was terrifying. That's awesome. And I don't understand why you don't just burn it all down. Just burn it all down. Set it all on fire, and then all the shadow people will just not want to be close to it because it's lit and light and all that stuff. Yeah. Anyway, yes, Alan Wake is great. Awesome. But if you want to follow me, I don't know, I'm not really on social media as much, but lately I have been talking a lot, you could just go on Twitter, because I will never call it X. It's Twitter. Girl Pants, GRLPANTSGR, and that's my handle. And then from there, if you want to follow me everywhere else, there's a link there, and you can follow me anywhere else.
I'm gonna put her socials on the description of this episode. And Diana, thank you so much. I think this is a great and important conversation to have.
Yes.
I don't want to just
let's have fun. Let's be joyous. Let's celebrate. The industry is awesome. Let's celebrate. Let's be fantastic.
Definitely.
But we also have to acknowledge it.
Definitely. All right. Thanks, D.
Thank you,
everyone. So check us out, gamertagradio.com. Also, you can find us on any podcast app. Just search for Gamertag Radio. And also, you like to be part of our family discussion. Maybe you have some questions or comments about our conversation. This is how you could contact us.
Send us your feedback or questions. Give us a call at 786-273-7GTR. Email us at fanmail@gamertagradio.com or leave a message on speakpipe.com/gamertagradio.
All right. Until next time, everyone. We're up. Peace.
Thanks for listening to Gamertag Radio. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.